Welcome to the Wealth Warfare Podcast. Here, two Army Ranger vets use their military smarts and industry experience to guide you through finance and insurance. Get your money tips in an easy and interesting way. This is Wealth Warfare. Let's begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into the wealth building strategies, market insights, and insurance intelligence that we've geared up for today's episode of the Wealth Warfare Podcast, we bring your attention to the following mandatory disclaimer. This podcast is solely for informational and entertainment purposes and should not be construed as professional financial advice tailored to your specific circumstances. The host's opinions are their own and not reflective of the views or positions of the firms with which they are associated. Josh Settle is licensed to provide investment advisory services as an investment advisory representative in the state of Kentucky, while both Josh and Brian Miller are licensed as life and health insurance agents, Josh in Kentucky and Brian in Wisconsin. Investment advisory services are extended by Josh Settle through his affiliation with a registered investment advisory firm subject to the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) regulation. Please note that this podcast does not offer personalized investment advice, which is only conducted under a duly executed advisory agreement with Josh's registered firm. Investing in securities carries inherent risks, including the risk of losing principal. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and diversification does not guarantee profit or protect against loss. Furthermore, insurance product discussions within this podcast are for generality and understanding purposes and should not be considered as advice for any individual's specific insurance needs. The opinions and viewpoints expressed here are not intended to belittle any group, ethnicity, organization, or individual. For comprehensive details on our host and the financial, investment advisory, and insurance services they offer, please visit the official website or reach out directly via the provided contact information. The regulatory confines of the SEC, FINRA, the Kentucky Department of Insurance, and the Wisconsin Office of the Commissioner of Insurance govern their offerings. Keep in mind that investment discussions by Josh Settle cannot take place without an established advisory agreement as mandated by regulatory authorities. We thank you for your attentive understanding. Now let's gear up for financial enlightenment with the Wealth Warfare Podcast.
All right, let's kick it, dog. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Josh, and then this is Brian, and welcome to the Wealth Warfare Podcast. On this episode, we're just going to be talking about a little bit about ourselves, a little bit of an introduction, and just kind of giving you what the podcast itself is going to be about. So I'll go ahead and crack it off here.
Hi, Josh.
What up? All right. So we generated these questions. So just so you guys are tracking this, can you each share a bit about your journey from serving in 3rd Ranger Battalion to becoming financial advisors and insurance agents? Brian, take it away.
Well, I hail from Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. Went to, I was a poor student in high school. I took all your automotive classes and the easiest ones that I could pass. And ironically, I really sucked at math and algebra. Never thought I'd be a financial advisor, but high school, you know, I had a friend who was 4.0 student. He was my best friend. I stood up I was his best man in his wedding. He was my best man. We pretty much saw each other every day. But he was a really good student, and me, I wasn't. I would do what I wanted to do. And high school was a fun adventure for me. I enjoyed it at the time. I worked at McDonald's for a while, worked at Walmart. And during my time in school back in the mid 90s, you got a Saturday to go take the ACT or SAT test, and I didn't sign up to take it because I knew I wasn't going to go to college. And I got called by my guidance counselor that I think it was junior year, where they make you take that test so you can prepare your senior year for college. I don't remember, a long time ago. And they said, why didn't you take the ACT or SAT? And I said, because I wasn't going to college. They said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to probably join the military or something. I don't really know, but I know I'm not going to college. And they said, okay. So that was pretty much my conversation. They really didn't push anything. I graduated high school. And I was working at Walmart. I picked up more hours. I wasn't full time. And my stepdad at the time pulled me aside and said, hey, what the hell are you going to do with your life? Because you're not going to sit and live here and just work at Walmart part time. What are you going to do? I said, I'm going to join the military. He said, okay, well, don't talk about it and do it. I went down to the recruiter office, and I really wanted to join the Air Force because I wanted to kind of go on the law enforcement route. So I thought, oh, hey, I'll join the Air Force and be a a cop or whatever the heck they're called in the Air Force, security.
Yeah, security forces.
Yeah. And the Air Force guy said, "Did you take the ASVAB?" I was like, "Yeah, I took it like a year ago." Cause that's one thing I did. And he looked at my scores. He's like, "Yeah, we're
This is the first negative ASVAB score I've ever seen.
you don't qualify for the Air Force. You know, the Marines and Army down there. You might want to go talk to those guys." So I walked down the hallway, and I walked into the Army's office, and they're like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining." And they said, probably the easiest recruitment they ever had, because they said, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, in Wisconsin, the only thing to really do up here is hunt and fish. I grew up hunting and fishing since I was like 5. I was hunting with my grandpa in the woods. So I said, I like guns. I like shooting. And he said, "Well, we got the perfect job for you." And ironically, the only thing I qualified in the Army was a mechanic, electrician, or infantry. And infantry was like, "Hey, you get to shoot a lot of guns." I was like, "That's awesome. That's what I want to do." Um, where do I sign? And they said, "Well, we can give you guaranteed duty station, and uh, when do you want to ship?" I was like, "Well, I want to enjoy my summer, so I'll ship in, September." So I had to go through the whole process. Anyone who's been in the military, you go down to MEPS and do your physical and sign your contract, blah blah blah. And I actually, there was an incentive. I wasn't smart enough. My ASVAB was too low. I didn't get no bonus. I only got my guaranteed duty station. I actually picked Fort Drum because I liked to snowmobile. At the time, I really loved the snow and cold weather. It didn't bother me at all. Um, so that's where it was. So I joined the military, shipped off to Fort Benning for basic training and AIT. What was it? 16 weeks altogether. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I was actually, my full name is Brian Miller, which is a really, really common name. And when graduation time came, I was considered a holdover due to security clearance. So I couldn't ship to my unit, which really, sucks. So I just graduated. And they said, "Yeah, I wasn't the only one. There's probably about a handful of us from my units, or whatever the heck you call it, that graduated together, the company." And I went to the holdover barracks, and we were still under supervision of all the drill sergeants and whatever, and we just got put on shitty details every day. So mowing grass, picking up rocks, picking weeds, painting rocks, whatever you could think of. Well, some guys were breaking lawnmowers, and right on the site, because I took 3 years of small engine mechanics in high school because I could get an easy A, I was able to fix the lawnmower right on the site. And one of the drill sergeants was like, "Hey," he must have been in charge of the lawn mowing detail. He's like, "Hey, you know how to fix these?" I was like, "Yeah, I took 3 years of it in high school." Said, "All right, I got the perfect job for you." He's like, "Every day you're going to report to this little hangar, and you're just going to sit here, and I'm going to bring you all the broken ones, and you're going to fix them and sharpen the blades." I was like, "All right, cool." So I did that, and I got to pick one other dude that was with us. I don't remember his name, but I picked him to help me. So we just sat around. This was before cell phones, so it was like really boring. And we would just wait for a lawnmower to come. And then they also found out that I could type because I took a typing class in high school.
Nerd.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we're talking real, real early computers, right? So
Yeah.
it's, learning just where the keys are on the keyboard. And I got put up at brigade headquarters for, the what do they call it? Sand Hill,
Mm-hmm.
basic training thing. So the brigade commander was up there, and so I got put up there. So I got done fixing lawnmowers. I got put up there, typing memos and stuff for the commander, kind of like his little office secretary.
Secretary.
Yeah. And I don't know. I was doing that for 2-3 weeks maybe, and the commander was like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "Well, I'm kind of depressed." And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "Well, I signed up to do infantry stuff, and I'm sitting here. What's up with my security? Is there anything going on? I said, I don't, I don't want to do this. I said, I want to be an airborne ranger because actually, when I joined the military, I didn't even know what a ranger was. You just sing cadence about it in basic training. I learned a lot more about what they did. And I had a pretty decent PT score. And he said, "What's your PT?" I was like, "I don't know. It was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good." So the next day I came in and he's put a contract on the desk. And I said, "What's this, sir?" He said, "Sign it." I said, "What is it?" He said, "You want to get out of here?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, whatever." I signed it. I didn't care where they were sending me. I just wanted to get the hell out. And then after lunch, he came back with another contract that was an airborne ranger contract stating that once I signed that dotted line, the following week I'd report to airborne school, and that would be my journey that kicked it all off. So, a shitty situation got turned into a good situation, and but another little funny caveat on that was during basic training, during BRM, basic rifle marksmanship, I think it was called. I got I actually passed out because I ended up having pneumonia and got put in a hospital for almost 4 days to recover, and that put me. I had my medical records had that little slip in it, and I had to go on to main post and do the physical for airborne school and Rangers, and it was a little more extensive than the physical they gave you when you went in, and I had that little sheet in there in my file, and they drew blood and sent me through, and they're like, "Oh, we can't approve you right now. We can't stamp you through because you had this pneumonia during basics. So we're gonna have to do way more testing on you before we'll approve it." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So my opportunity to get out now just got squashed. So I was like, "Okay, well, I'm a problem solver." So I went back to the barracks, and in my medical records, I said, "Screw this. That's the only thing they know about me." Because nothing was electronic at the time. We're talking 1999. So I took that little sheet of paper out of my file and I went the next day back to the same place, got my blood drawn again like I was a brand new person coming through for an airborne ranger physical. And I didn't have the sheet in my medical records, and bam, I got stamped through. So when I got back to my barracks, I just put it back in my med records. Anyone going in, make sure you keep track of your medical records. Anyone in the military right now, keep track of your medical records. They'll help you down the road.
Yeah.
Just a little 411 for you all. And so that was it. I went to airborne school, went to, after airborne school, went through RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. That was 4 weeks of, well, I think I had to wait for 2 weeks for the next class to start. And, anyone that's been through there knows that it's not pleasant. And I made it through, passed, and I was assigned to Charlie Company, 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, which it was my third choice. I wanted to go to 1st Bat, which is in Savannah, or Fort Lewis to 2nd Bat, but I got stationed at 3rd Bat, which was still at Fort Benning. So I was never able to leave Fort Benning. I was stuck there, but it was the best thing that could have happened. That was my time in Ranger Battalion, and 9/11 kicked off, and what I remember that day, we were actually the RF1 company, which anyone that's in regiment or has been in battalion knows. You, Josh, we were the force that could be deployed anywhere in the world in 18 hours. So a lot of restrictions on you at that time, but we were the go-to battalion at the time when 9/11 happened. So that evening, that whole day was chaos. We actually had a late work call because we were doing a jump and a 20-mile road march and then doing a field problem for 2 weeks. So that was our training. We didn't have to report, I think, till noon or 1 o'clock that day because we're doing a night jump and then a night road march for 20 miles and then follow on operations after that. little training that they always do during RF1. And that all got canceled because the post was shut down. We didn't have 100% accountability till I don't even know because, well, what's the highway? What? Oh, you weren't stationed at Third Bat. 80 I-85, I think, was a highway that.
Yeah, I was at Third Bat, bro.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, you're good, man. You're old. It's cool.
Too old. I'm too old. But dude, the highway was shut down because it was backed up all the way to like North Columbus from everyone trying to get onto post. And yeah, we got the call and we knew that we were leaving to go. And fast forward 19 October 2001, I was one of the 199 guys that jumped in to Vengeance DC to take Objective Rhino into Afghanistan. And that was I kind of got messed up. My back got kind of messed up on that jump. And that deployment ended right before Christmas of 2001. We got to come home. That's a whole nother story we could talk about. That's a funny thing. I don't tell much about what happened on that, but we can go into that later, different episodes. But anyone wants to talk military, we're here for financial stuff. But fast forward, so I ended up, ironically, I actually never went to Ranger School because 9/11 happened. Well, I did fail one Ranger PT test that I won't go into detail. Let's just say I got screwed over on that one. So I didn't get to go to Ranger. I didn't get a chance to go to Ranger School, but because my back was injured after we got sent on block leave to go home for Christmas after that deployment. And then when I got back, my back was like really bothering me. So I ended up having to do physical therapy, got pulled off the line. And I was working for First Sergeant Pippin, if he's listening, or he was a great first sergeant to work for. And I was kind of his right-hand man building stuff. And he said, "Hey, Miller, we were getting ready to go on another deployment." And he said, "Hey, I need someone I can trust to stay back and be the rear D and COIC of Charlie Company. And you're my pick." He's like, "Will you do it?" And I said, I really want to go on deployment, but yeah, I'm not going to deny you. So I'll stay back. So I didn't deploy with the guys a second time. For 3.5, 4 months, they pinned me corporal, which was, if any of you been in BAT or in Ranger Battalion, you know that getting a leadership position without having your tab is very, very slim. But apparently they trusted me enough to do it. So I got pinned corporal. And they got back from that deployment, and my time in, I actually was ETSing at the end of 02. So all I did when they got back was doing my clearing stuff from post. And I got back and came back to Green Bay, Wisconsin. And that's kind of where I started. I wanted to go into law enforcement. Actually, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I did some job interviews and tried to get some jobs doing some intel stuff. I joined the National Guard back up in Green Bay to finish up my 3 years in active time. And I was an intelligence analyst for the counter drug control program for our local sheriff's department, active duty National Guard. So I got that position, but the commander of that unit, he was Air Force through the Air Guard. It was ran down on Madison, our state capital. And he said, "Hey, you should probably be like a SWAT cop or something because of your background." And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably my only choice." So because we got elected, well, a new governor got elected that didn't like that program. He cut the funding for it. So I lost my job doing that. So I went to college and I couldn't stand college.
Hey, back to college.
Yeah. So I had nothing to do. I was bored. You know, I probably had PTSD at the time, but and then all my buddies are jumping into Iraq. So that's like killing me because I should be over there. And I just was like, whatever. So I ended up taking 77 credits in 3 semesters to knock out that stupid law enforcement degree. But up in Green Bay, it's small, right? I mean, the city the time was 100,000 people maybe, and there was one applicant for like 1,000 openings. So you had to be like top number one. And as we all know, because of my ASVAB, I can't take tests very well. So I said, screw this. I'm not trying to get a job in Wisconsin. So by that time, we're talking 2004 ish. My roommate from Ranger Battalion lived in Clearwater, Florida, and he got out and he said, "Hey, we'll get a house together. Come live with me." So I moved down to Florida, and within 2 months, I got hired by Clearwater PD. I had to go through another 26-week academy there, which sucked, but I did that, and I was a cop for Clearwater, Florida, for a short time. Then my grandma got diagnosed with cancer back up in Green Bay, and my dad died when I was 9, so I really didn't have my grandma and grandpa. I was the only surviving family member left. So I felt obligated to move back home to help take care of my grandma with my grandpa. So I moved back home and I got a job at the sheriff's department now because of my prior experience. I was more marketable. So I got hired. I got hired before I even quit Clearwater. So I came back home to Green Bay and I was a deputy for the sheriff's department for 12 years. I made the SWAT team like 1 month after my probation was up. So I was one of the youngest guys to make SWAT on the department as a normal guy. And then for 4 years, I did the SWAT team for 8 years. 4 of those 8 years, I was a sniper on the SWAT team. And law enforcement wasn't everything that it really seemed to be.
Well, yeah, dude, especially today, man. I mean, hats off to all law enforcement, man, but it's just the culture
it's a
like
tough job, man.
yeah,
Like,
man. And then the culture today does not, make people want to do it. You know what I mean? Like everybody talks about, oh man, I hate cops, blah, 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 blah. Dude, it's horrible.
well, I mean, when I left, I had already started a business. I kind of skipped through that, but you kind of learn how the system is broken and how the system doesn't work. Judicial side, where you put a lot of time into a case and it just gets dropped because of all the different angles attorneys and lawyers can all play. It's just like it was pathetic, and I lost faith. I wasn't doing anything. I was going to work to collect a paycheck, and I lost my drive and desire. So I knew that I needed to do it, change something. But during that time, during that whole time, I got married, ended up having some kids, and I had my wife and I had set off to start an ice cream shop because we wanted to start a business, but we didn't want a business that had grease or anything. I mentioned some stuff I didn't bring up in my childhood, but kind of he wasn't really officially my stepfather, but he was a guy my mom was with for almost 20 years. He was an entrepreneur. We had we had 3 trailers that we would do all the local fairs at. So from when I was 10 years old, I was working concession stands. He had 3 different trailers. So I kind of grew up with an entrepreneurial background a little bit, and I kind of wanted to do that myself, which led me to I knew what having fryers and grease was, and I didn't want that. So I thought ice cream would be easy. So, not knowing much about starting a business, we started one from scratch, got a brick and mortar, and we can dive deeper into that. This is just a background. I don't want to get that'll be future follow-on episodes on how that all panned out. But went into business, started an ice cream shop, and then I actually had a buddy of mine who, at the same time, finagled me into becoming a business partner with another guy. So I took over If any of you want to look it up online, it's gotten smaller since, but it was a sporting clay. We had 600 acres. We raised pheasants and chukars. We're a licensed game farm for Wisconsin, but we had 600 acres, 15, actually no, 17 different fields that we would release pheasants on for people who bought pheasants. We'd release them and they go hunt them. We provided guided services with dogs, and then we also had 4 different courses of sporting clays and an elevated 5 stand. Also, it came with a bar and grill. So that business was in shambles. I looked at the financials, and it was horrible. They were grossing 320 a year, losing about 80 to 90K a year. And me and my business partner that I started with, Carlos, he probably won't listen. Maybe he'll listen to this. Hi, Carlos. Um, we were like, I didn't know the guy, but we met a couple times, and we're like, hey, we can do this. And I was like, yeah, but I'm also starting this other business, and I'm working full time at the sheriff's department still. So like, and I got 2 kids right now. And right before I took it over, I found out my wife was pregnant with our 3rd kid. So it was kind of a lot all at once, but we're talking 2014. June of 14, I opened up our ice cream shop, and about March of 14 is when we took over the sporting clays. But we got that going, and I mean, I was probably working for almost 2 years straight, working 90 plus hours a week between managing work, family, and the 2 businesses. Because when a business is failing, you got to put a lot of work into it, and that's what we had to do to turn it around. But I will say, in the first 9 months that we took it, we ended up having a $3,000 gross profit at the end of that year. So in a short period of time, we really turned that place around, but it took a lot of work. Fast forward to October of 2015, I actually got injured at the sheriff's department, which is another reason any of you guys that are firefighters listen to this, or sheriff's deputies or anything like that, police officers. I met a financial advisor in 2013 because my grandpa had passed away and I inherited his house and some other stuff, some other assets of his, but I never touched them because my theory on financial advisors at that time he had like 3 different ones, and I had to meet with all 3 of them. And I just, you get that vibe for people. Being a cop, a lot of cops are pretty good at reading people from first interactions with them, and they just seemed like, I don't know. I just didn't get a good read on them. Like, I didn't want to do business with them. I just signed the paperwork I had to, and left the money and assets where they were. But I met this guy. He was actually a customer of ours at Little Creek. He brought his family in, and I actually had cooked him food that night. Because being a business owner, you can't just throw money at a business and expect to let people run it for you. You have to know how to bartend, cook all the food, and also do all the maintenance and everything. So that Sunday evening I was cooking, and that's where I met Matt, who ended up being my financial advisor and had set me up properly, which gave me the confidence and courage when I got injured on the job at the sheriff's department. A minor car accident. Had fractured my wrist, and workman's comp said, well, in order to go back to work, you need to do all these tests. Like, I had to get all these MRIs and all this crap. And so I did it. I checked the boxes, kind of like military, like, hey, I got to do this and to get back to duty. I was off work for like almost 4 months, having to go through the rehab and whatever. And workman's comp came back and said, oh, well, we're not going to pay for these medical bills. So I had like $18,000 of medical bills that went into collections. And I was like, no, screw you. You're going to pay it. And they're like, no, we're not going to pay it. And that really opened up my eyes, because it wasn't actually the sheriff's department. It was the work comp insurance company that the county HR had contracted with. And they're horrible to work with. So anyone out there that is going through something like that, hit us up. I'll be happy to talk to you. But the crappy thing about it is no lawyers would help me or take my case. Not even the union would help me because it had nothing
Jesus.
to do with union stuff. So I got some advice from some attorneys that were like, hey, do this paperwork, file it with the state, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, man, why am I putting my ass on the line every single shift? If I get hurt, they're not going to take care of me. They're going to throw me to the wolves just like this. So I was like, this is not going to be my career nor my life, which gave me another bad taste in my mouth about being a cop and working for somebody else or the government. So that prompted me to say, hey, I want more time to focus on my business because I was getting burnt out working 90 plus hours a week. My family life was, not where I wanted it to be. I wanted more time with my kids. So I said, it's time to make a change. So I decided to apply at the VA to be a VA police officer. It's the only thing I knew at the time I still needed a paycheck to support my family and insurance, etc. But I decided to take a pay cut going from, without sneezing, with SWAT overtime and court overtime, I was making 75 to 80K a year, probably gross, being a cop. And I gave that up to go to the working at the VA for 36K a year gross, but it gave me banker hours from, 8 to 5 hours and health insurance, which gave me evenings and weekends to work on my business, which is what I needed the time for the most because I had general managers and we had a general manager at Little Creek running stuff. So that really freed that up. But I took that leap of faith and took a couple steps back, so eventually I could go forward. And I realized, it was a test to see if the worst case scenario, I could go back to the sheriff's department or any other department and get my old salary back and continue working. So there's always a backup plan, especially nowadays. There's so many job openings. But I decided to take that leap of faith and go to the VA. And I realized my take home wasn't much. And I talked to Matt, my financial advisor, and I said, hey, if I took interest only on the money that I have invested, I could probably make the same amount without having to work for anybody. And I ran the numbers and he ran the numbers with me and was like, yeah, you can do it. So I only worked at the VA from October of 15 to March of 17. So March 17th of 2017 was the last day that I actually worked for somebody. So I decided to quit and run I will say, because I put in so much time at Little Creek, my ice cream shop was barely surviving. My bank account was almost zilch. In winter in Green Bay, I didn't sell the amount of ice cream I thought I could do. This will all be fall on episodes on people wanting to start a business. We'll talk about all the mistakes and do's and don'ts that you should do when you're starting a business. But anyways, it was doing bad, so I needed to go full time into that just to turn that around. I mean, I wouldn't be able to take home a paycheck, that's for sure, because we weren't making enough selling ice cream. But during that whole time, though, actually 2015, I actually started a food truck to supplement. There's another business, food truck business. I just hitting on that, but we did that. So I went full time in 17, and my lease ended at the ice cream shop. I tried to put food into there, but I decided it was too much of a hassle. And my lease was going to be up in 2018. And my landlord, anyone wanting to go into business, make sure that you get a good read and feel for the landlord. My situation was a little bit different because the person I signed the lease with wasn't the actual landlord. It was a messed up situation that I should have done better due diligence on, and I didn't. But he was a real dick, and I did not want to give him any more money, so I did not renew it. And I shut down the brick and mortar, and I just went full. I just turned my business into a food truck. So I actually serve hand scooped ice cream, and I'm currently still doing that right now. What are we into 2024? I have my trailer. I tried to sell my trailer this year, but 2023, we're technically not in a recession, but people aren't spending money and don't want to open up new businesses at this current time in our economic state.
Mm-hmm.
But after I shut down my ice cream shop that first winter, I had another kid. So I had a total of 4 kids at the time, and my daughter, she was young, and I was like, well, I'm going to bring her to work with me every day because I don't want to pay daycare. So until she started 4K or kindergarten, I was pretty much a stay-at-home dad slash, summertime food truck operator, and we were getting by. We had to take a big hit to our budget, and we didn't go on many vacations, or if we did, it was very cheap ones, and you just have to adjust. But we we survived and we were happy. That's the biggest thing. Money isn't everything. Happiness is more important than money. But where was I going with that? Yeah. So after the first winter and not having the ice cream shop open, I was kind of bored. So I was talking to Matt, my financial advisor, and I was like, "Hey, I got to do something else." He's like, "Well, hey, why don't you come work with me?" I'm like, I'm like, Matt, I barely passed algebra in high school. You want to know a funny story? You know how I passed high school because you needed so many math credits? My math teacher, Mr. Dunlop, I won't forget his name because he let me graduate high school. Because I was taking small engines, one of my projects was I had to tear apart a lawnmower and do a full go through. I got take it completely apart and tune it up. Well, he ended up having a crack in his crankshaft case, and I ended up fixing that for him with some JB Weld. I hope it's. He told me I ran into him, and I think that lawnmower was still working, but I fixed it for him. And because I fixed his lawnmower for him, he liked me. I tried. I won't say I didn't do any work in high school. I just you have to show your work. I didn't want to show my work on all these algebra problems. Like, it was stupid. I couldn't apply. I didn't see when I was going to apply this in my life. And he ended up passing me with a D. So because of him, I was able to pass algebra. So going back, I just got on a soapbox. But I thought that was kind of important. Like, I never thought I'd be a financial advisor because I sucked with numbers, like, algebra and all the equations you got to know to try to do this. And Matt told me, he's like, it doesn't matter. He said, we have computer programs now that do all that for you. If you can do basic addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, which you gotta do all that to run a business. You don't need algebra to run a business. You don't need to do anything like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm good with numbers. I know my cost of goods sold and my margins. That stuff's easy to figure out, and there's calculators for all that too. So he's like, yeah, just go take these classes and then take these tests, and you can come work with me. So I said, okay. So I did that and got my license, and that's how I got to become a financial advisor. And I started that in 2020 started that. I kind of started in 2020, but I didn't have any clients at the time because COVID hit. And I actually had to be kind of a stay-at-home dad again during that time because all my kids were home from school. So I was more on a schedule, setting alarms to making sure they're getting logged on at the right time to do the Zoom classroom stuff. So 2020, I really didn't do anything with financial advising. Got back into it in spring of 2021. Matt actually disabled my email. He thought I was done because I really didn't communicate with him much, and we didn't know what the outcome was after COVID, right? But I did that, and here we are today. I've been doing that ever since, building clients, and that's where we're at. So that's how I came to where I am. A little bit of background. I know that took probably longer than a little bit, but
It's all right, man.
you got to know the whole context of where I come from because I'm not your traditional financial advisor. I didn't go to some Ivy League school and know how to pick stocks for you.
Yeah. Well, dude, this is pretty much same with me, man. So, so for that question.
Yeah. What about you, Josh?
Yeah. So, for me, man, I kind of went the, oh, hey, you're going to go to college route. So I did. I went to college first for about half a semester, 3/4 of a semester, and then um, I was on campus. Decided it would be a great idea to move off campus, even though on campus housing was paid for already. So then I'd have to get a job to also still continue to go to college and then pay for an apartment right outside of campus, which was a genius idea. So as you can probably guess, ended up dropping out of college and then we started working full time at Penn Station, which is like a sandwich shop, and good people, you know. I mean, obviously, but the wasn't really paying the bills, right? It was just barely making it. And then went to work for a steel mill dealing with the scrapyard materials. Actually, funny enough, where I work right now.
Hey Josh, not to interrupt you, but where'd you grow up again?
Kentucky. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I grew up in Kentucky, kind of all over because my dad he's a giant earth moving equipment tire salesman. So pretty much wherever the money's at is where we're going. So we started in Lexington. I was born in Lexington, went to Western Kentucky, went back to Lexington, and then went to Northern Kentucky, which is where I ended up at. So, but yeah, then went to college at NKU, Northern Kentucky University. Great university. You know, can't say anything bad about them. It was just, you know, young and dumb, didn't know any better. So then started working at a steel mill. And I was like, well, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. 7 days a week, 12-hour days. I was like, nah, I'm good. So ended up going to the recruiter's office. At first, want to go to the Marine Corps. But
you like eating crayons, huh?
Yeah. I thought I wanted to eat crayons, but it for some, I can't remember what the reason was, but it was going to take a minute to get shipped out. So I was like, nope, screw that. I'll just go to the Navy. So I went to the Navy, and then I wanted to be a Marine hospital corpsman. So, you know, still be out there with the Marines and helping them. And then same thing. Well, the Navy wanted me to be, I think, at 22% body fat before they would send me off. So, and then at this whole time I was working at the steel mill, so I was dropping weight like pretty quickly. So, I did it, and then something happened because it kept, you know, like I was like, hey man, when can I go to MEPS? When can I go to MEPS? And it just kept getting delayed. So eventually, I ended up running into an Army guy at a dance that this chick invited me to. Got to talking to this Army cat, and I was like, hey, screw it, man, I'm gonna go talk to the Army. So I went and talked to the Army guy. He was like, hey dude, we can get you sent in like 2 months. I was like, sick, bro, sign me up. So I took the ASVAB and I qualified for a lot of stuff because I know I called Brian the nerd, but I'm actually the nerd. So I qualified for one MOS. It was called Satellite Communication Systems Operator Maintainer. So it was a 25 Sierra. So super nerd stuff. But I mean, you know, they made it sound cool. Like, oh yeah, man, you get to operate satellites and you can, you know, communicate across the globe. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know. But I was wanting to do stuff like, you know, be a medic.
Want to go work for Elon Musk, huh?
Yeah, or like, you know, I want to be like a medic or do something like hands-on type thing. But and then the guy at MEPS was like, ah, man, you better take this. This is a pretty good gig. So I ended up taking it, and then ended up getting an AIT, which is the MOS training school, you know, after basic and all that. And then we got there, and I mean, I enjoyed it, but, you know, I just really never fit in 100% with those cats. I mean, Magic the Gathering is cool and all, but I don't want to do that 100% of the time. I'd rather go outside and see the sun. But, and like I said, man, some of the coolest people you'll ever meet, but at the same time, I wanted to do something a little different. So there was a lieutenant that me and him really got along well. Lieutenant Eleno. I'll never forget that dude. And he was a stud, man. And come to find out, he was a prior Air Force PJ who got blown up out of a Humvee, and then the left side of his jaw got broken and was basically hanging down off of his face. Compound fractured his either left or right arm. I can't remember which one. It really doesn't matter. But then got back up and engaged the enemy. I was like, dude, that dude's a stud. I was like, I don't give a shit. I was like, that is the man. So I really looked up to him, and I would always try to do PT with him, and he would always be the fastest one, always be the first and everything. So I was like, hey, sir, what can I do to kind of get away from all of this? And he just started laughing, and he was like, well, if you want to do something
anymore.
Yeah, he was like, if you want to do something, then put in an Airborne Ranger packet and I'll approve it. And I was like, sir, what is that? And then he was like, well, look it up. He's like, if you want to go, I'll approve it. I was like, okay. So, I mean, and he already knew my PT score because, I was trying to keep up with him, and he was running like sub 11-minute 2 miles. I mean, dude was just a freak. So, we would, so he ended up approving it. Long story short, ended up going, got to battalion. A lot of interesting stories that will definitely be in some episodes later. But long story short, ended up breaking my elbow. That's why I got this pretty sick scar. Went back to the schoolhouse, became a satellite network coordinator, which is a extreme nerd. So I thought what I was doing before was nerdy, but becoming a controller is what they call them, was a definite super nerd. But I did it. I was happy I did it because I got to go to Okinawa, Japan, went there, met my now wife, got 3 kids. And then when I was in Japan, actually ended up getting out of the Army, and I worked as a contractor teaching Marines radio and SATCOM, and then another GBS, which is another basically satellite broadcast system. But I enjoyed my time out there. I enjoyed being with the Marines. And it was a good experience. So I did that for 4 years. And then after that, I did 2 years of contract work for the Marine Corps as a IT guy. So I always kind of stuck around the IT stuff, kind of, sort of. Then COVID happened, and then I don't know, man. I just kind of got the feeling that I was like, man, there's got to be something better than just doing the same mundane thing over and over and over again, like day in, day out, same stuff. Just hammer it in, hammer it in, hammer it in. Like, okay, go to work, go to work, go to work, go to work. Just the same thing over and over again. That just wasn't for me. So I don't want to do the same thing over and over again for the rest of my life. I want some diversity. I want something that's going to be a challenge, and then it's kind of funny because we ended up moving back to the States. And that's where I'm at now. I'm in Kentucky now. And I took a job. Well, at first I didn't have a job at all. I studied my tail off, got my Series 65. So now I'm a financial advisor, and then also studied and got my health and life insurance licenses. So I got both those knocked out, or all 3 of those knocked out. And then currently going back to school for change my degree from cybersecurity admin and policy to finance. And currently right now I work for Nucor Business Technology. That's actually a subsidiary of a Nucor Corporation, which is the largest steel manufacturer in North America, which is pretty cool. And it's a good company, man. It's an awesome company. If you were going to stay at a company for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that's the company to do it at. I can't say enough good things about them, but it's just not for me. I'm not the company man. I'm my company man. So
Yeah, you beat to your own drum, right?
yeah, exactly. I can't do it, man. So, um, but yeah, so that's where I'm currently at now. And then when I got back initially, I kind of skipped over this part. I have a good buddy of mine that we kind of jived together when I was in Battalion. Justin Neal, who founded Sable Outdoors, and I'm a co-founder and CFO of. And like I said, super good guy. And he reached out to me when I was overseas. He's let me know, like, hey man, I got this idea of this app that I'm going to do. I was like, dude, that sounds awesome, bro. Like an Airbnb for the outdoors. So I was like, dude, that sounds freaking sweet, dude. I was like, keep getting after it, man. You're going to make it. And then lo and behold, I end up coming back to the States, and he's like, hey man, I want you to be a part of this with me. I was like, well, man, I really didn't do anything. This is your baby. So, but whatever you need me to do, man, I'll help you. So that's how I got involved in that. And then ever since, we've been kicking and screaming, fighting and scratching, man, trying to make it work. And then we've gained a lot of traction and done really well. And then we've picked up some freaking superstars along the way, man. The COO, Taylor Cassatt, that dude's a stud. Tim Schneider, he's our CTO. That dude's a stud. Will Israel, he's our chief strategy officer. Dude's a stud. So we got like all the guys that are involved are former special operations. So it's really cool to have that caliber of people surrounding you, and it kind of forces you to do better, and even Brian. So that's another thing. So how I kind of got into doing health and life insurance wasn't of my own accord. That was some influence from Mr. Miller here, because we were on the Ranger investment page, and he reached out because I asked some question. I can't remember what it was about. I think it was about in regards to the 65, and I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Blah, 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 blah. Getting some answers from the guys that have some experience and some background in business and life knowledge, just the basic stuff. And Brian was like, hey, if you'd be willing to work for somebody else, which is what I was trying to get away from. So I was like, dude, no. And then, instantly in my mind, I said no. But I was like, man, one, I asked for opinions. So, and two, I was like, this guy wouldn't just bring this up if it was something that was bad for me, or if he thought it was bad for me. So I was like, okay, sure. So ended up agreeing to meet with Matt, kind of over the phone deal, it was actually over a video teleconference. And it was cool, man. And then Matt will be on the show later, but he's one of the guys that's like such a good person. It's kind of weird. So it's like, he's almost like a snake oil salesman, but he's not. So it's weird because you're wired, and like Brian said earlier, especially, him being a cop, you have to read people immediately, like, hey, is this dude a good dude, bad dude? But he's such a genuine person, and there's so few people like him. It's hard to get a read on him at first. So that's the first thing I tell people is like, hey man, this guy might sound like he's full of it, but I promise you he's genuine and he's the real deal. So, and he is, man. He's done a lot for me already. So, like I said, I'm in IT, so I was going to go up there and help him with his IT network, which I did. But he paid for my plane ticket, my Airbnb, all my food up there. The only thing I paid for was 3 hats, one for me, one for my son, one for my wife, and then a teddy bear for my daughter. That was it. He paid for everything else. And then I didn't forget that. So I was going to charge him $50 an hour when I went up there. But I was like, hey, sir, you did me a solid, so I'm going to do you a solid. And I'm sure he may have thought that was great, or he may have, already written it off or whatever. But I didn't forget that. So he's definitely a person that has a big heart. And he's the reason why I'm doing the financial advising stuff now, because originally I just got the 65 because I wanted to use it to manage my hedge fund, to collect a management fee. But I also really like helping people. So, I mean, what's the best way to help people than to help them make money, or to help them save money, or to help them save money on their taxes? So, I really enjoy it. And happy that Brian turned me on to it. And, that's kind of how I got to where I am now. So kind of a long twisted road, kind of went down the IT path and then twisted back to, finance and helping people. And, that's just really what I enjoy, man. Like I really get a lot of enjoyment out of helping people, and that's my jam. So.
Yeah, it's funny when Josh talked about Matt. I knew Matt. I told you I met him. He was a customer of mine at Little Creek Lodge eating dinner, and we hit it off right away. And he actually created a little business networking group up in Green Bay and invited me to it. And I honestly, probably for like 6 months, I didn't even know exactly what Matt did, because he was like helping some guy, because Carlos and I, who ran the Little Creek operation during bird hunting season from September through March, we would get, during the daylight hours, we would have each field, all 17 of our fields, we would have morning and afternoon hunts. And we would literally have to have somebody sitting by the phone all week, just fielding phone calls and scheduling hunts on these different fields and making sure we didn't get it screwed up, right? So we wanted to try to find someone to build us an app to be able to, where our customers could just download the app, log in, and see what fields were available and what times were available, so they could just do it and it would alleviate manpower. And Matt, I had contacted Matt and was like, hey, do you know anybody that does apps? And Matt was like, yeah, I do. And he actually set up a meeting with Carlos and I, because he was introducing us to this guy who he was trying to help out get a business going, that was apparently an app developer. So he came to that first meeting with us, and we had the meeting down at my ice cream shop one late night. And I had Matt's contact information in my phone, because the name of the company was App Dog. And I had Matt under there because I thought Matt was the owner of it. I didn't know that Matt was just helping this dude. But then, the dude flaked out on us because we wanted, we had some competition around here, and we're like, hey, if we're going to pay to build this app, we want rights, we want to own it. So, if we sell this and other lodges or hunting clubs use it or develop it, we can collect royalties and et cetera, and kind of another separate business venture.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know Matt did finance at the time, because this was before he was my financial advisor. And for him to become my financial advisor, I had to send him a text one day, because when I had my third kid, we had like a smaller SUV. And with that third kid, we were going to need a larger one. And I had a buddy who was a car dealer, and I had found this vehicle I wanted. And I was trying to debate, because interest rates were 0%. I was trying to debate, hey, is it better to put somewhat of a down payment down on something? Or is it better to just finance the whole thing, because it's pretty much like free money, because it's 0% interest, but I'm going to have a wicked high monthly car payment.
Wicked high, bro.
Yeah, serious. And I mean, we're talking going from 350 to like 900. So
wicked high, bro.
It was that was my question to him, and he replied back, he's like, neither, give me a call. So that's where he says, hey, you own a house? I was like, yeah, I own a house. He's like, well, interest rates have gone down consistently, since the 2008 crash. Um, do you have any equity in your house? I said, yeah, I do. Cause I bought my house in 2008, got a killer deal on it. So I knew I had equity. And he's like, well, why don't you think about refinancing and taking out cash and just paying cash for the vehicle? And I was like, huh. And that almost set me down the road of using techniques that we're going to talk about here on how to, one of the biggest wealth eroding factors is giving money to people we don't want to give it to in the first place. Banks and the government, right?
And financial institutions, financial
So,
advisors.
no, I want your money. No, I don't. I could care less. But that has opened up my eyes to a whole different realm, and it was like, okay, so I ended up refinancing my house, having the $50K to take out as equity. My mortgage payment went up $100, and I just eliminated the car payment that I had on the vehicle that I currently had. So I just saved myself like $300 a month, and I upgraded to a vehicle I wanted to because I used my asset, which was my home, and I leveraged it to get something I needed without it costing me any more money. I actually saved money. So those, we get into that's what we're going to be talking about on this podcast is how can everyday people, you know, uh, the one thing I hate is people, I talk to someone, they're like, I don't have any money to invest. I don't want to talk to you. Like, dude, a third of my clients don't have any money to invest. I just help them figure out where they're at and give them a path and a plan to get to where they want to be, because eventually they'll have money to invest with me that I can manage. And I could care less if they have money. Let's sit down and let's get things organized and let's figure it out, because you can't do anything without a plan and actually knowing where you actually sit. So that's how I figured out Matt was even in the financial world and he even did financial advising. He wasn't even trying to sell me or try to say, hey, come get me. And that's what sparked me to say, oh, hey, by the way, you helped me with this. I have all of this over here from 3 other different financial advisors that I want you to take over and help me with, which,
Well,
I
because
mean, we're not talking a lot of money, but we're talking a decent amount of money that we were able to leverage and put in a different position, which ultimately led me to having the confidence to leave my 80K job and go to 36K. It's all a big circle. So just throwing that in there and piggybacking off what Josh has said about Matt. So anyways, not to toot his horn or anything, but it's true.
all right. So I think we answered the first question pretty thoroughly, I think. So, and I think we'll probably end it on this one. And we can both kind of answer this at the same time. Because, yeah, a lot of these will be questions we can kind of answer in other episodes. But what inspired you to start the Wealth Warfare podcast, and what unique perspectives do you bring to your listeners from your military backgrounds?
The podcast, I listen to, what people call on radio shows? Hey, long time listener, first time caller,
Yeah.
I've been listening to podcasts and YouTube podcasts and keynote speeches for a long, long time. And I have a lot of information and knowledge that I gained over my years in business, personal life, and financial life that I learned along the way. I learned a lot more from my mistakes than my successes. And if I can bring any value to anybody, I think this podcast would be, I mean, I have this crappy mic thing, Amazon Black Friday deal, because I always inspired or wanted to try to start one, but I'm not a tech geek like Josh. Yeah, I play video games and stuff at night, but I really had no clue what I was doing or how to edit or anything like that until, me and Josh have been how long have we known each other now? Almost
Probably coming up on 2 years.
2 years probably.
Yeah.
When he says Ranger investment page, for a little clarity to all you out there, all of us who are in special operations, we usually have separate groups and subgroups on Facebook and stuff like that, and that's how we communicate with each other and stay in touch. So we have these different pages of people that have different interests. So one of them is a Ranger investment page that we talk about stocks or crypto or whatever is going on in the world.
Yeah, just anything finance related,
So
really.
That's basically how we connected.
Mhm.
We didn't serve during the same time.
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah, I'm old. So yeah, I mean, just to bring value to people and
Yeah.
give people, advice
Well-
and there's and financial stuff, like, to give you some things to look at. There's some people, anything that we say in this podcast, you hear the term in law enforcement a lot, especially in CQB and entering and clearing rooms. There's 100 ways to skin a cat, right? And there's not one right or wrong way. It's just taking a mix of different things that work for you or you think is right. So I'm not going to bash other financial advisors and their techniques and their ways, but I'm gonna lay out, in my opinion, the pros and cons of it, and just to give more information out to people, because most of the world and the people, especially in the United States, they're confused. They think money buys happiness, and wealth can just be having a healthy family and enjoying life. It's not all about money. But what we're going to talk, I mean, the military background and experience and law enforcement, all that will, ties into everything. And if we can just give some life advice, doesn't even have to be about wealth, because we're not just going to focus on wealth.
Yeah.
A lot of it will be geared around it, but I don't know. That's why I want to start it. What about you, Josh?
Yeah. So
why did you want to start this thing?
Yeah, so the same thing, man. I mean, me and Brian got to talking about it, and I was like, you know what, man, we need to start this thing. So we need to get something going to where, we can put the word out to help people. You know what I mean? Because sometimes Matt or Brian will say something that obviously I've never heard before, and then I'll be like, oh man, dude, we got to get on that. Like, why does nobody know about this? Why is nobody doing this right now? Or like, from the age of 5, why are parents not setting their kids up to do this? Like, just certain things that, people just don't tell you. So I want to make sure that any, what could be considered as useful information, we get it out there and, have fun doing it, man. So, and I have fun helping people. So I think that this is going to be a good experience for everybody involved.
Yeah, a lot of TikTok videos or other podcasts are like, oh, I make so much money, so I'm going to buy a Range Rover because it's 6,000 pounds and I can depreciate it and it can be a tax write-off, so I don't give it to the government. Yeah, that's cool. But there's also other ways that you can reduce your tax liability too, where cash balance plans, profit sharing,
Yep.
putting your kids, setting them up, your kids, your wife with 401ks,
Putting your children on payroll.
Like there's other ways that you can reduce tax liability. And, just a little disclaimer, we're not giving financial advice here. We're just giving pros and cons and different rules of the game. That's about it. I mean, I would like to consider our podcast more educational too.
Yeah.
Like just giving out advice on what you can and cannot do. But, there's different accountants out there too that will feel comfortable claiming different stuff in the IRS code than others because they think it's going to trigger an audit. But, it's all about choosing to work with the right people.
Yep.
So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like you said, man, before, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so it's all about not just knowing one way to do it, but knowing multiple ways to get the same result. You know what I mean? So if you can't do it,
or quicker or more direct line of results,
yeah,
right?
or more efficient. You know what I mean? So if we can, even if we just help people do that, I'd be happy. You know what I mean? So even if we just help people, like, oh, well, instead of doing 7 steps, now I just have to do 3 and do the same thing. So yeah, man, that's what I'm all about. Well, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to split this into 2 episodes or just 1 episode, dude, because
Well,
now we're at,
let's just get them all answered though, right?
yeah,
Can you still put it on a different one or no?
yeah, I can. That one's kind of the same. What are some of the common financial challenges you see among veterans, and how can they best address these issues? So I'm going to go first on this one. One of the biggest challenges, I would say, maybe not so much financial at first, but just getting, and this is kind of one of my passions too. So if you're a veteran, and you got your, and you meet all the qualifications, right? So if you're a veteran, you got out, you got honorable, you did more than, I think it's 2 years, or it's either 24 or 36 months, whatever the minimum requirement is for your VA benefits, please get with me, because I will help you and I will not charge you a dime, because the VA system is broken in the United States and they always act like they ain't got no time for you. But we do, both me and Brian will help you. So that's just one of the things I like to do. And I think that's one of the most common things that I've seen in veterans is, one, they feel like, nobody's there to help them. And it's an issue, man. I mean, it's a problem. So we're here to solve that problem.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I see is every branch of the military, when you get out, you're almost kind of lost because
You're on your
you're
own.
so used to being told where to be, what time, what dress uniform to be in, whether it's PTs or whatever, right? You're so ingrained into, and especially if you weren't in a leadership position, you're if you ask a question, well, I don't know about the regular army. I only know Ranger Battalion, but if you ask a question, you're most likely doing push-ups, right? It's like, don't talk to me, just do what I said and go over there and do X, Y, and Z. Right. And a lot of veterans, they just get out and they're kind of have that same mindset and mentality. The hardest thing is for them is going to be to break that and also be able to, fortunately in special operations and Ranger Battalion, we were able to, a lot of the times we are able to problem solve and have to solve a lot of problems on the fly. Right. But a lot of times you're not allowed to ask those questions or problem solving. You're just told it's one way and that's the only way it's supposed to be. Like, the hardest part I see transitioning is thinking outside the box and then making a plan and figuring out what you want to do. And it's all right if you don't know what you want to do, but like Josh said, if you can get in the VA and you probably have the GI Bill benefits,
That's what I'm doing right now, going to college.
go try a bunch of stuff. Go test it.
Yeah.
You probably have a bunch of friends that you served with that when you get out, I mean, I don't know about you, Josh, but we could probably go to the Ranger page, right? And if I was single and didn't have a wife or kid, I could probably go to all 50 states in the continental U.S., even probably down in the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and probably have a bed to crash on in each one of those states.
Yep. Dude, like I was telling you.
Because don't be afraid to call up and connect with your old veteran buddies and ask them for help, or
dude, another guy,
ask them for a couch to crash on for a week to go move to a different city to try a different job, right? I mean, if you can get VA healthcare, then you qualify for it. There's a VA clinic or hospital probably in every state that you can go to if something happens. Go start at a different college. Try a bunch of stuff. Figure out what you want to do. You don't have to have the answer right away, but just figure out what you want to do and go try a bunch of stuff. And it's all right if you don't have it figured out. Just understand that it doesn't have to be perfect, and figure out what you do like and what you don't. And then you can start making goals and reverse engineer how you're going to get to do what you want to do.
Yep. Okay. So this one's really important too, for our civilian audience. So I don't really like that. Just audience. So yes, we do cater to vets. Yes, it's called wealth warfare because I think it looks cool. So we came up with the logo.
Technically, our wealth is under warfare right now with the money that our federal government is spending. So if we can keep it in your pockets and not let it get sent overseas or let the government spend $500 for a hammer, it is warfare on everyone's wealth.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so just the audience in general. So the civilian guys that didn't serve, that doesn't matter. It's not like you're not welcome here. We're talking to everybody. It's just Brian and myself have had experiences in the military, so we know what that's like. But we also know what being a civilian is like because obviously we're civilians now. So we have just, we have the vet status. It's not, it doesn't make us any better or any different from you. It's just, hey, we're all the same, just trying to make it in life, man. So, they said, or what's the question is for our civilian audience, what are some key financial strategies that everyone should consider regardless of their military status? So, like I said, it doesn't matter what your veteran status is for the most part. I mean, other than like VA home loans and stuff like that, you have to be a veteran for. But if it's not, specialized stuff like that, then anything we say or any information that we relay to you guys is going to be, you can go and use it or, go research it for yourself. But that's kind of my take on it. What about you, Brian? What do you think, man?
Yeah, I was going to say that
because, dude, I just don't want to be like one of those vet bro podcasts. You know what I mean? Like, oh, bro, if you're not a vet, then get out of here, dude. Oh, that's not me, man.
Yeah, no, I'm more of a civilian than I am a military person. I've been out for so long. I don't even know what the process is getting out right now. It's probably so much more streamlined. Hopefully, they have more information. But civilian side is just knowing, like when you sign up, for a job, filling out the right information on your W-4. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have, everybody, and I'm guilty of it too until I learned, is, oh, hey, April 17th every year I have to have my taxes done, and I figure out that I'm getting a refund. Yay. Honestly, it's not a refund.
They actually stole your money all year.
The money that you're getting refunded is money that should have been in your pocket that you should have been able to use to invest and or pay down bills. Like here's one thing that we're going to talk about, and this applies to every single person.
Opportunity cost.
Yes, like not what kind of interest rate can I make you on? Come to me because I'm going to be able to make you 9% or 12% on in this market. No, let's figure out what your rate of loss is. Because it doesn't matter if I can make you 12%, but you have like 3 credit cards that you're paying 24% on.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't even be investing right now.
Yep.
We need to get that under control first. So, like, again, it's really simple. Let's not give money to people we don't want to give it to in the first place. And taxes is our biggest wealth eroding factor in any financial plan. How do we reduce that? Well, first off, it's keeping more of the money in the first place and filling out your W-4 form right. Instead of claiming 0, claim 1. In a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, at the end of the year, you shouldn't owe the government anything and the government shouldn't owe you anything. If you can get to that sweet spot in your life, I've been trying for 10 years and I can't, because it's practically impossible, especially when you have kids, you have more deductions, blah, blah, blah. But that's ideally in a perfect situation. That's where you should be at if you can get that. But it's going to take some years playing around. 1 year you might pay in, 1 year you might get a refund. It's going to be vice versa. It's just how much is that going to be? Now, if you can get $500 or less that you're getting refunded, you're good. Or $500 or less that you have to pay in, that's pretty damn good. But I'm not a tax professional. I just know that that's something you should strive to do, and not just leave it up to the government to be responsible with your money, and they're gonna pay you.
Okay, let's do.
Is that good?
Yeah. Can you talk about a particularly memorable experience or success story from your consulting work that you could provide listeners with insight into your approach? So I think we've already kind of done that a little bit, but go ahead, Brian. Drop some knowledge on them.
A success story would be, actually, she didn't become my this person is not my client, but came to me because I helped her with health insurance and was able to take over her health insurance because she didn't like the guy that she was working with. And I only got into health insurance because it's part of your financial plan.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
I'm not a health insurance person, but I only do it to help clients because they need some cheap plans or they need some type of coverage.
Yeah, I mean, dude,
I don't want to build a financial plan for somebody and them not have health insurance and all the work that we do to make the plan, and then all of a sudden they get sick or get in an accident and something happens, and now we have to take away from what we invested to pay for that. So protection, the way I approach every single client is I don't even want to talk about investing to make sure that you're properly protected. Vehicle insurance, property insurance, liability insurance. I mean, here's one for concealed carry permit holders. I'm not skating the question. This just came to my head that we should add. If you have a concealed carry license and you carry concealed every day and you want to use it to protect your home, you better have a minimum of $1 million liability policy, because if you end up getting involved in something, whether it's out on the street or in your home, you might be 100% justified criminally. And, maybe you take a life, maybe you just injure them. They're going to sue you civilly. Every single law enforcement department in the country that has an officer involved shooting, they're cleared by the DA or ADA of no criminal charges because it was a justified shoot. However,
civil,
that department or whoever that government is going to get sued civilly. And you never really hear about it that much because it's going to be a hard case to win, and they just pay it. They just come to a settlement and pay it out. So you need to have an umbrella policy on your homeowners, or go get a liability policy if you're carrying concealed. So where did I get to? Oh, I was talking about protection, right? So I had this client that needed health insurance, or didn't like her. She had health insurance, but she wanted to work with someone else. She ended up finding me. I helped her out, and I said, hey, by the way, my real job is actually financial advising. Let me, if you want any help with that, let me know. And she contacted me, said, yeah, I do. And she had a current financial advisor, but she apparently wanted a different opinion. And he told her she had retired and had started a business, but never followed through with it because her financial advisor said, well, if you start this business and make too much money, then your health insurance premium is going to be more expensive, and it's going to be hard to control. So you might make more income, and then you're going to have to pay more of a premium. And all this other stuff. And I just like heard that
More
story.
money is never a bad thing.
And I just heard that story and I was like, are you serious? I was like,
Don't make more money. That's
so
bad.
I put her on a plan and said, go start your business and do what you want to do. You're retired. You put in your time.
Yeah.
Go enjoy your life. Why are you worried about this? Like, we'll figure it out. The tax code 85% of the IRS tax code is geared towards small businesses.
Small businesses and then
deductions.
real estate.
So even if you do make a bunch of money and it's going to hurt you, we'll find deductions so it equals itself out. Go do what you want to do.
Yep.
Which she did, but then one of her really good friends' sons became a financial advisor with some big firm, and I'm happy I could help her out, and I would say that was a success for me. That I was happy that, I mean, when I told her that, she was crying in my office, and I was like, yeah, go do it. But then she talked to me. We were going to put some other things in place, and then she talked to me and said, hey, I decided my friend's son, I decided to go with him because I was going to be, one of his very first clients and blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, all the power to you. I'm still your health insurance agent, so I'll help you in any way you want.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't need to do this money. I don't need to do this job for money or anyone else's money. I just want to help people.
Yep. Well, and dude, it's funny because kind of the same thing for me. It ended up coming from health insurance. And it was actually recent. I helped a pregnant woman get some help and get set up for Medicaid when she tried to call earlier to like the DCBS people, like the people that are supposed to handle her case for her, and didn't. So I was like, that's weird. And they were like, yeah, they couldn't find my application. And I was like, well, I mean, I see it right here. So I literally just logged in and looked at your account and it's right there. So let's get you submitted. And I did. And she was like, thank you so much. Like, I hope you get a big commission. I was like, well, I don't get commission from this because it's it's helping with the Kentucky Connect stuff. It's like the marketplace, for the
ATA.
the Obamacare stuff.
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I really enjoy it. And then I'm a firm believer, man, if you put good into the world, it's going to come back to you like 1,000-fold, I mean, maybe something I did that was cool, prompted Matt to just hook me up and fly me up there and then do all that stuff, So, and then, I've got people reaching out to me now that I'm starting here, first of the year in 2024, now people are like, hey man, I didn't know you're doing this. Boom, boom, boom. What do you think about this? Hey, let's set up a meeting. So it's awesome, man. And, I love helping people, and to be able to help my, I guess, circle of people is really cool. So I guess that's my cool story. And this is a good one.
100%.
Yeah. What are the top misconceptions about financial planning and insurance that you would like to debunk for our listeners? So I'll take this one first too. The biggest thing that I want to debunk for people is, I guess it's more about financial advisors like Brian and myself, is you don't have to be rich to talk to any financial advisor. It doesn't have to be me or Brian. It could be anybody. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be, oh, well, I got to go talk to this guy because he's, and then they're going to want to take all my money. That's not it. My goal is to keep as much money in your pocket as possible. That's my goal. So, and there are some people that are self-serving, I mean, there are people that want to just get assets under management and call it a day. That ain't me. If I recommended something to somebody, as on a client basis, I want it to be the absolute best thing for that person in their current situation. I don't want it to be, oh, well, if I recommend them this, then I could get commissions on this, or then I can write them this policy, blah, blah, blah. That's not me, man. Like I said, I want to take care of people, and I want people to remember me as the person that takes care of people. That's really what I want, because that's what my dad does, and that's a quality in him that I really look up to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you get in this job, yeah, you can make a decent living doing it, but if you're only in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. And dude, if you're a good person and you treat people well, the money will come. Like, don't worry about it, man. I mean, am I a little stressed about starting in January, about starting into a new chapter into my life? A little bit. But am I stressed to the point where I'm not going to do it? Absolutely not. I'm still going to do it 100%, because I believe that who I am as a person and wanting to help people, I think that will kind of shine through, and people recognize that too, man. They know if you're BSing them or not. Like, if you're like, this dude's just a grifter, you know what I mean? He's just trying to fleece me and talk me out of my money. You know what I mean? That's not me, man. I like, and to be honest, another person I want to emulate is Matt. You know, because he kind of, like you said, dude, you didn't even know he was a financial advisor for like 6 months. And then you were like, oh, he's an advisor. That's cool. So it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to have your actions speak for you, because especially in today's age, man, nobody keeps their word anymore. Nobody does what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. Oh yeah, man, I'll do it. Never happens. But I kind of want to break that stigma about financial advisors, financial planners, whatever, insurance agents. I want to break that stigma. So that's what I want to do, man.
Yeah, I would say the biggest, I don't know if it's a stigma, but it's more of
a misconception.
I come across a lot of people, like I mentioned it earlier. It's like, oh no, I don't want to talk to you because I don't have any money to invest right now.
Yeah.
It's not about having money to invest. It's about,
it doesn't matter.
It's about, are you properly, I mean, the approach that we take, that Josh is part of the training, what the way my mentor Matt taught me, and the way that we approach with every client is, it's not about having money to invest. It's about building a foundation first. You can't go build a house without a solid foundation, right?
Yep.
And that foundation is your protection. Do you have, I already mentioned it. Does your vehicle insurance match your net worth? What I mean by that is, are you covered enough for each accident, for medical and comprehensive and collision? Are you covered enough that if you're at fault, they're not going to be able to come take all your assets? Right? I mean, that's what we talk about protection. Now, you might not have any assets. So now we're starting at the bottom, but you at least need vehicle insurance because most states requires you to have it. But let's get something in place so you don't keep on getting pulled over and get tickets for it, or, et cetera. Something happens.
Preventing some of that loss, dude. What's up?
Then do you have property insurance? Do you have renter's insurance? Are those assets protected? Is that coverage proper? I already touched it just a few minutes ago.
Yep.
Do you have an umbrella policy? If you have a dog or pets, if you have a pool, like, all that stuff comes into play. Yeah, you hope the insurance company is going to protect you, but are you properly covered? And then we go into health insurance. Do you have disability insurance for your work? Now, we're not insurance salesmen and selling this. This is other people that we can refer you to. But these are all products and stuff that we need in place as part of your foundation for any financial plan that we build on top of it. So, do you have long-term and short-term disability at your work. If you're hurt and out of work for 6 months, do you have insurance that's going to pay your bills? Otherwise, you're going to be dipping into your investments that we have. And we don't want to do that because now you're penalized. And that's taken away from anything that we're trying to build for your future. Maybe we haven't even started yet, but we need to have this protection in place, right? So we go through all those aspects. So does me, I mean, yeah, I'm just telling you how we approach it, right? Other financial advisors, some of them might not approach it that way, and it's not wrong. They just need to get, they need to make so many cold calls or meet so many people and talk to so many people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Each firm has different ways of doing things.
Yeah. And
But
to be honest, man,
we're gonna give you advice throughout this podcast and this channel on what we think is best and to the point when COVID happened, majority of our clients, the way we had them set up, didn't have many cares in the world, even though some of them were lost their jobs, some of them were out of work, because we had them properly set up with a wealth coordination account, and they survived and everything was good. We didn't have people calling us and panicking like, what am I going to do? Because it's like the military. We plan for the worst case possible scenario, right? And sometimes you look at it and you're like, man, that is never going to happen. For example, I can tell
pandemic,
you
what's
in
up, dude?
2000 when 9/11 happened, right before it, the HBO series Band of Brothers came out. Right? I remember watching that. One person in the barracks had cable. We all piled into his room so we could watch that show. And what were they doing on D-Day? Parachuting, combat jump, low altitude, right? And you're looking at that and you're like, oh man, we're never going to do that.
Psych.
19 October 2001, what are we doing? Nighttime, low altitude, combat jump in Afghanistan. You plan for the worst and you hope it never happens. We are planning for the worst and people's financial plans, and the worst case scenario happened. COVID. People were told not to go to work. They lost their jobs. And I like to say that the plan that we implemented and had in place worked. And it's crazy. We got to actually see it in action, and it worked. And 99% of our clients came out unscathed with their investments and their wealth intact. And it's a beautiful thing when you see something like that happen. And it gives credit to what we do. It reinforces what I was trained. I was only in the business like 4 months. But I was doing training with Matt during that time that I was getting my license. And he's like, this is how we set things up. This is what we do. And I'm like, sometimes it might be a hard sell to say, hey, we need to have 6 months of your living expenses into this wealth accumulation account for the worst case possible scenario. But you do it. And we actually had to use it and it works. I can't say nothing about anything more.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered everything, man. So I know that was a long intro, but I think it was needed because...
Well, we can probably clip some of this into other ones, right?
We can. So we can clip it, but...
Or at least save those clips and then just like, I don't know, that might sound stupid. I don't know.
Well, I'll probably clip it into 2, man. 2 or 3. I don't know.
Because the timer is at 1:53, so
but like there was like 20 minutes of that's going to get clipped just from the beginning until we started. You know what I mean? So we're at probably 1:30.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, cut that into 2 45-minute chops. I think that'd be fine, man.
Yeah.
45 minutes is pretty digestible. That's a commute to work for your boy here. But yeah, man. So Well, I appreciate everybody listening in, and yeah, just stay tuned for the next episode, man.
Yeah, glad to meet all of you. I hope you guys like and follow us for. We're going to be launching a lot more information. We're going to be doing pros and cons.
Yep.
The biggest thing in this, the biggest thing that you can get takeaway that you can have from this is think of financial planning and the financial industry as one big chessboard, and we're going to teach you the rules of each chess piece and what you can and cannot do with those chess pieces.
Yep.
And that's how we game plan, and that's how we game plan your financial goals.
Yep.
Your financial goals right now might not even be retirement because you're young. It's fine. But you have to have a plan and start somewhere.
Yep.
And if you can take something away from us, that's why we're here.
Yep.
Care less.
Yep.